course we do. Hello. A very warm welcome. May I now take this chance, this opportunity, to introduce you. Yes, there it is, the original Watergate. Did have it first, didn't we? Now, the purpose of the Watergate in those days would have been to allow safe conduct of provisions and prisoners into the Tower via the river, as I mentioned earlier on. A lot quicker and a lot safer, bringing everything in this way. Now, it wasn't always called Traitors' Gate. However, first used that name during the Tudor period, quite simply because that's when the majority of the prisoners, including 4 Queens of England, were brought through Traitors' Gate and these very stairs. Queen Anne Boleyn, Queen Catherine Howard, Lady Jane Grey and the Princess Elizabeth. And of the 4 of those ladies, 3 of them are still here. We'll have a chat about them later on. Now, above Traitors' Gate you can see St Thomas's Tower. Gets its name from a man called St Thomas of Becket. He was the Archbishop of Canterbury during the reign of King Henry II. He was murdered in Canterbury Cathedral itself. Now, some say on the mistaken orders of King Henry himself. Inside St Thomas's Tower, we've got the medieval palace. It's all open for you to look at. If you're going later on, you can go through the door there, modelled wonderfully by that extremely beautiful woman who's about to wave back to me. You can go in there, have a look at 1 or 2 bits we've got in there. Out the other side, cross over this bridge here, which we call Salving's Bridge, which leads you nicely, conveniently into this tower here. Some more pointing and some more waving them. And it was in this tower, upstairs, where that man with the camera is now. I'm going to say it's the ghost of King Henry VI, but he pulled out that Samsung and it just sort of... Up there, in that very chamber, on the 21st of May, 1471, of the King of England, King Henry VI was savagely murdered. Brutally beaten around the head, dropping dead on the spot as he knelt to pray there in that very chamber during the War of the Roses, incidentally a war fought between the houses of York and Lancaster. Okay, then if you turn around, right in front of you now, we've got another infamous, there it is, the infamous Bloody Tower. But again, this wasn't its original name. It started its life as the Garden Tower. And in fact, it was William Shakespeare who actually referred to this as the Tower of Blood in one of his plays, Richard III, because of the 2 alleged murders that took place in this very town. Now, King Edward IV had died. When he did, he left behind 2 young sons. The 12-year-old uncrowned Edward V and his younger 9-year-old brother Richard, Duke of York. Now, at 12 years old, Edward V deemed far too young to rule England, to rule the nation. And so the boys were put under the loving protection of their uncle, Uncle Richard, the Duke of Gloucester. Uncle Richard then has the boys, his nephews, brought here to the tower. He stated for the boys' protection, indeed preparation for Edward's coronation. But as soon as they were here, Uncle Richard now has the boys declared illegitimate. Well, that's quite convenient. Convenient for Richard anyway, because it now means that the first and the second in line to the throne are now out of the way. With those 2 boys out of the way, yes, guess who's next in line to the throne of this country? Uncle Richard! How did he get away with that? But he did, and he's duly crowned King Richard III. Now, soon after that coronation, those 2 boys, his nephews, disappear. They would never be seen alive again. However, Richard III is killed about 2.5–3 years later at the Battle of Bosworth Field, hacked to death on that very battlefield at the hand of Henry Tudor's army. The first of the Tudor monarchs, indeed, would become Henry VII. Would father another well-known chap you may have heard of, King Henry VIII, and we'll have a chat about him also later on. Now, soon after that battle, after Richard's death, some of his men come forward, openly admitting to the murder of the 2 innocent princes in the tower, quite clearly stating that they had smothered them as they slept in a bedchamber here within this very tower. They say they then threw those 2 boys' broken bodies down the stairs, hid them loosely under a pile of stones until the next morning, when it is said that a priest from the tower arranged for the bodies to be removed and taken and buried under the external stairs of the Great White Tower, which is where they remained, undisturbed, undetected for 191 years in the reign of King Charles II. And on the King's words, there's some work being carried out on those very stairs. As you can imagine then, the workmen a little bit surprised, taken aback when they've discovered a wooden box, a large chest. Now, they probably thought they found something important, maybe even hidden treasure, who knows? However, can you imagine those workmen's dismay on opening the lid to that chest, only to find inside the skeletal remains of two young, small, innocent boys. How old are you? 9! Perfect! Okay, I won't pick on you anymore. Okay, you have my word. Didn't even flinch. Look at that, hard as nails. Well done. Now, experts at the time immediately declared these have got to be the remains of our two princes in the tower. They're taken over to Westminster Abbey, interned at a place called Innocents' Corner, which Charles II had named for them, incidentally, where they still remain to this very day. The tower was a great favourite of Queen Elizabeth I, one of her favourite courtiers. Sir Walter Raleigh, the famed navigator and explorer. Actually imprisoned, though, on Elizabeth's orders, quite simply, because he'd had it away, gone and got married to one of the Queen's ladies in waiting, a lady called Elizabeth Throckmorton, without the Queen's consent. She's a little bit put out by this, a little bit upset on her orders, so Walter is imprisoned in here, but only for a few months, because at this country's greatest hour of need, on the Queen's say-so, once again he is released. The impending invasion of the Spanish Armada. It is the site of the gift shop. However, if you are the type of people that likes torturous things, go into our gift shop, look at the prices. Just as torturous. Okay then, moving round. If you look behind me now, you've got a glass memorial, which marks the spot of our private execution site. This is our village green, you could say, just like any village green anywhere in the world. Except in the middle of our village green, instead of a nice, quaint, cute little duck pond, we got an execution site.